Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before.
Today we're recapping and chatting about Once Upon a Time, episode 205, The Doctor. This episode aired on October 28th, 2012. It was written by the showrunners Eddie Kitsis and Adam Horowitz and was directed by Paul Edwards. Before we get into our recapping and chatting, let's do a synopsis for the episode. In the Enchanted Forest some time ago, while learning to control her magic, Rumpelstiltskin wants to take Regina's lessons to a new level, yet something is holding her back. She wants to learn to use magic to bring back the dead so she can resurrect Daniel, yet he claims that that is something magic cannot achieve. Overhearing her predicament, Jefferson offers to bring in a wizard who will do what she asks. But after his tactics are seen to be useless, Regina lets go of her hope and her past to move forward with her magic lessons, and Rumpel has begun to make his own monster, while Dr. Frankenstein can make his. In Storybrooke, Regina is still determined to keep her promise to Henry and refrain from using magic. But when a distraught Dr. Whale actually succeeds in bringing Daniel back from the dead, her help is needed to subdue him. His memories are bringing him back to the last place he saw Regina, the stables, where Henry is currently taking care of his own horse. Daniel is not quite himself and almost hurts those around him, and the only way to stop him is to let him go. Regina gets one final chance to say goodbye to her true love before she uses her magic to stop him, finally letting him go and hopefully letting herself begin to love again someday. In the Enchanted Forest today, back from their trek to the castle, Emma, Snow, Mulan, and Aurora return to the safe haven to see that the compound has been attacked and Cora left no survivors, except for the blacksmith, who turns out to be Hook. He tells them that Cora wanted him to spy on them for her, but he will gladly help them if they'll get him where he wants to be. He leads them to a beanstalk that they'll use to retrieve the magic compass they need and be that much closer to getting home.
So that was an episode.
That was an episode. You know who Dr. Whale is now. And actually, his name is a reference. The fact that his name is Whale is not just, they didn't just pick a name. Let me go up to my fun fact sheet. His name is a reference to James Whale, the director of the 1935 Bride of Frankenstein movie.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I did not know that. I
Mhm.
should watch that because I do love Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And I was very excited to see that they at least got this right. Because so many
Okay.
people do not understand that Frankenstein is not the monster.
Mm-hmm.
It's Frankenstein's monster.
Exactly.
So, that has always annoyed me. People would be dressed up for Halloween. I'm Frankenstein. I'm like, no!
No, you're not. We'll see if you still think they did his story justice after episode 212.
Oh, I don't think it was completely done justice.
Okay.
Already, I'm kind of like,
There's a little bit more. There's some backstory, and that so basically what we're gonna see in the next flashback for Frankenstein is we're gonna see before he takes his trek to our enchanted forest, and then what happens after. We're gonna see both sides of that.
My first note, though, is just, so that's how this is going to go with Hook. I was like, okay, this is how we're doing this.
There he is. He's not the best actor, I will say. Captain Hook, for a pirate, that wasn't the best acting.
Like, the actor is good as Hook. The actor is not
yes,
good at trying to act as not Hook.
Yes, Colin is phenomenal as Hook. Yeah. Hook is not a good actor.
Hook is not a good actor. And then I just have in all caps, sleeping with my wife. I was like, yes, that was an amazing moment.
That was such a well-deserved punch. Like, the fandom was like, yes!
Not Regina going to therapy.
I mean, everyone needs therapy, and I'm like, we're happy to see her. She needs a little bit of accountability.
Unexpected.
Archie needs a reason to be on screen, I guess.
It's always therapy, though.
It's the right course of action. She's having trouble. She wants to keep her promise to Henry to not use magic, and it's hard. I mean, because like kind of like what I say with Rumpelstiltskin about him and his power being an addict behavior, it's very much the same thing for her too. After a while, magic is just how she got everything she wanted, and now to not use magic, we see even like her not using magic on certain choices throughout the entire episode, which is there's moments where she could use it to get what she wants and she doesn't.
And like the heart lesson too, though, like when that was going on as well, when they went into that, I was like, using a unicorn was definitely a choice, but it's because her and horses.
Yeah.
But like I love seeing Regina in her younger age of when she is more timid, more humble, more just young. and
Yeah.
innocent, and then just like because even when she comes back after the whole Daniel situation in the Enchanted Forest, and it's like, oh, outfit change. That was a fast change. It
It was a good outfit
was a
change.
good outfit change.
It is fast though.
But then they just, kind of go straight into she preserved Daniel.
Yeah, so the continuity, one of the things I put on script is continuity, who's got the continuity? David's preservation spell, while being very plot relevant because it keeps his body, because
Mm-hmm.
I also wrote down my thing of magic can do much, but know that about bringing back the dead, and I'm like, but can't it though? Certain criteria need to be met for that, mainly being the state of decomp for the body.
Mm-hmm.
So like Daniel, the preservation spell, it works because in this case his body needs to be like very well preserved or very not decomposed in order to be brought back through Frankenstein's situation. It's a beautiful metaphor about not being able to let go, but there is no way that a preservation spell could have been put on him moments after he died if she didn't start her magic lessons until months later.
Yeah, no, he'd be pretty decayed by then.
Pretty much. So like we get it. We still have Noah Bean, who I'm very happy for him that he basically got paid to lie in a box for the week.
I mean, um,
No complaints.
no, not really. And then, of course, his body being gone, I just go, ooh, interesting. I was like, here's the suspense.
There it is.
And then just, what the fuck, Sebastian Stan.
Yeah,
He just pops in. I love it.
he does. So I believe this is the last time we see him. We'll check back in because IMDb I think had him credited in 218, and maybe he was supposed to be in it. And I don't know. I don't remember him being in it, but that remains to be seen. I forget a lot of things that happened in the season. Apparently, this is what I say a little bit about Regina leaving him in Wonderland in the first season. Is revenge for this, for the false hope that he gave her when it came to Daniel.
Oh.
She gave him false hope that he could do this and be back home in time for tea. That's an interpretation. Take with that what you will. But that gives a little more reason to why she didn't do the workaround loophole that we know she knows for the hat.
Which is, it killed me though, because I liked him like this.
Mm-hmm.
His character,
he's cool like this.
He's very cool like this. I love his mannerisms, how he, I love all of it. Because even the next thing I did was write down, you want the ball or not? And yes.
You want the ball or not?
I loved that moment because then you've got like like he's such a great actor as Rumpelstiltskin. Yes. Yes. But it's just, I love Sebastian Stan. We already know this. But I'm sad to see him go then because how he acted as the Mad Hatter in this episode, I could watch all day long.
Yeah.
Which is why it's disappointing that he's not supposedly in the Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
Once Upon a Time.
No, he's not. Well, the Once in Wonderland spinoff is past this. Like it's like timeline wise where it's set. It like the version of him we would have seen is the version post 117. So it would have been very much the Mad Hatter.
I still like him like that though too. So
yeah. This is more like goth steampunk Jefferson.
I like it.
It's a good look on him.
It very much is.
Back to my thing of there's no limit on the guy liner.
I know. I was actually going to say the same thing. I was like, all the guy liners got me very happy. Maybe that's why Hook looked so weird to me, is he didn't have enough guy liner on in this episode.
Oh, it gets darker as the season
goes on. He had like
on.
almost none on, I think, trying to make him look different. And I was like,
no,
where is it? You look better with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, the guy liner will come roaring back, and it will come back to stay.
All right, so I'm going to bitch about this.
Okay.
All I could write was, Emma, you're not as good as you think you are when it comes to the lying. Yes, she was right this time.
Yeah.
She's wrong a lot.
She is wrong a lot. I mean, what have I been saying since the beginning? Like, the beginning, I'm like, she gets it wrong, I would say, about 80% of the time in the first season. So, like, she relies on her superpower a lot, because pre-show, I can see it working for her. And we were actually going to see next week kind of why she feels the need to have that. Next week is going to be a lot of Emma flashback.
I'm excited to see more of her story. Yeah. We don't have enough of it.
If I was going to say, if I remember correctly, I usually don't. But if I do, next week has no Enchanted Forest flashback. It has only Our World flashback because it's got Emma's story from before Storybrooke.
Okay, I'm ready for that though. May have to go. I can't just go and watch it though, because then I'll forget it for next week.
We just say, if I remember correctly, we've established that I don't. However, the episode title is a reference to a fairly offhanded line from season 1 that, in my defense, I mean, in my interpretation, I find the reveal a little underwhelming. Other people feel differently. We'll see next week.
We'll see how I feel.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to make you laugh.
Okay.
When we first meet Frankenstein, Victor, not Dr. Well, when we first meet him in the flashback, I just wrote, he's like the light version of Neil Patrick Harris.
He kind of is.
He is.
Yeah, David Anders with like the slight British accent. It's weird. Like I don't really. I guess he made a choice. But I definitely see what you're coming from there. I did love leading up to this line because so much of leading up to this reveal, and even still really after it, until we have the final Dr. Frankenstein when he calls him that, they're like putting in little hints that he could be the Wizard of Oz the entire time.
Oh, I didn't take that at all.
Well, because this is on like 5 million watches. In the scene with Jefferson and with Rumple, he'd been to Oz because he mentioned something about slippers that had moved on to another land, and he's like, the slippers are what I needed to get to that other land, like stuff like there's a whole thing, which oddly enough is a through line that will come in when we get to the Wizard of Oz storyline. So kudos to the writers for that. But
continuity.
Sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. But when Jefferson's bringing Regina to Victor, she's like, where is this wizard? I thought you were going to bring him to me. I was like, and indeed we shall be off to see him. He's off to see the wizard. So, I like the nods that he's the Wizard of Oz, even though he is emphatically not the Wizard of Oz. And I think it's a nice little thing in there, even though I think it might actually be too subtle for people to pick up on that. So I do think the fact that at this point Daniel has already been resurrected, we know he's Frankenstein. I feel like if we have any level of media literacy skills,
yeah, we have a whole episode on that.
We do. Go watch it. Go listen to it.
Go watch it.
Go watch it. Go listen to special. Did you know Spoon Queen is the superior ship?
Because it is.
Yeah, but I think it's easy enough. Also, the fact that he's there with the intent on bringing back Daniel, even if I don't at that point. At that point, we'd seen Daniel have been resurrected, but he's there with the intent to resurrect him the first time. So, like, even though it's nice to have the confirmation at the end, we knew who it was.
Well, then I love too, though, like, we're sitting there and I'm just like, what the hell is going on when she goes downstairs at the hospital or wherever that is.
Yeah.
And finds him without an arm and shit. And I'm just like, okay, we got dark with this. I like it.
It's dramatic. It's the Halloween episode. It came out on October 28th.
Oh, okay.
It's the Halloween episode, which also continuity writers. The very beginning of the episode when David's outside of Granny's right before he punches Whale, there's pumpkin decorations and swan-shaped pumpkins, making it seem as if it is also Halloween. It is not, because this is days after the last thing had happened. It's like April.
Okay.
I get it. It's the Halloween episode, but like they don't understand their own timeline.
No. I guess I've always said, though, like, it's funny watching Bob's Burgers have better continuity sometimes because it tends to. It's so much fun, though. So much fun.
Oh, yeah.
And then I have in all caps, how many hearts did Cora have?
A lot. I don't think anyone's done the math. I think someone had done the math on the wall of hearts in her vault in Storybrooke, but also when the Regina's vault, the room where she keeps Daniel, will become the room where she keeps her hearts.
Well, yeah,
it's the same virtual set. But it's a lot. It's a lot of hearts.
Well, because then I wrote like mother, like daughter.
Yeah, because they had that line of she caused she hurt so many, she took so many, inflicted so much pain, it was impossible to keep track. And then when he asks her whose heart did he take, I took so many, it was impossible to keep track. It's sometimes we become our parents when we don't mean to.
Oops. The whole interaction though with normal time in Storybrooke, Daniel and her just being like, I love you, and he's fine for a minute and can talk to her, but the pain is the transition between Daniel and Monster, I laughed the whole time. It was bad.
It's
odd.
It was a little awkward.
It was awkward.
But I'm watching that through rose-colored glasses because it's so beautiful.
I don't think I feel the same on that one. I was just like, I get it. That's the story. I know, I understand it, but oh god, secondhand embarrassment. I can't. Oh man, but then I did write too. I was like, and this is why we process our grief and move on. Because at this point, she's lost him like 3 times.
Yeah, 3 times, twice. Like I said, Noah Bean is in 2 episodes and he dies in both of them.
I was like, can we? Okay, it's time to move on, Regina. Like you watched your mother kill him, then you watched him not be turned into or brought back to life, and then you saw him brought back to life, and he died again. Just
Yep. And she had to kill him.
And she had to kill him. So I was like, okay. Like seriously, it's an episode. Finally, the damn beanstalk. We've had this damn bean show up multiple times. I finally get the fucking beanstalk.
Yeah, we get the beanstalk.
But like, do the bean? So before though with Hook, when he threw the bean in the water, it opened a portal. So yes. I'm confused. So is that what the beanstalk does? Is that another? I'm so confused with the beans.
You will see the lore of the beanstalk, the giants, and the magic beans.
Okay.
That is coming in episode 213, Tiny.
Okay. Of course, everything's Rumple's fault. Like
everything's always Rumple's fault.
Everything's always Rumple's fault. I did enjoy that, because we know he can see the future, and him pretty much telling Victor, like, we'll see if things work if you still think it's not magic or what magic can do.
Exactly.
I loved going into wherever he is though, and it's black and white, and you got Igor and all the things, and then finally I got the fucking word science by the end of it. The whole episode, I didn't even care that I didn't hear Frankenstein the whole time too much, but I'm like, just say it science. Just say the word science.
They are really dragging that and Frankenstein. They're dragging that out.
So just say it.
Welcome to our land without color. That's what that realm is called.
That's what that's called.
It's the land without color. It's a realm of story, basically. Like, how we saw with Jefferson's hat, there were different like doors that he could go through. While it is not a realm that has magic to it, obviously his magic is science, or there's like charlatans or people that are like, do it with a flair kind of situation. Yes, that is a reference. It's from Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Oh wow, I haven't watched that since I was a kid.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Such a good movie.
It's such a good movie. But since it's not a land inherently with magic of its own, much like the Enchanted Forest or other realms of story, but it is a realm of story. Like we'll see more as this goes on. There's realms of story that are imbued with the magic of being a realm of story without having magic of their own.
Okay.
Like where like people cannot wield magic kind of thing, or if that people that are from that realm cannot wield magic, because we'll see a land that's perpetually in the 1920s. People age and grow and have their stories. However, the decade really does not change whatsoever.
That's interesting.
We're gonna see a version of like 1800s London that is a realm of story. It's not actually 1800 London.
Do I get Jack the Ripper? Sorry, I got too excited. Come on, that'd be fun. Not. Jack the Ripper.
Family show.
We grew up in a different family, okay?
My point being, we're going to see a version of 1800s London, as well as actually 1800s London of the land without magic. But so it's a little convoluted there, but it's just the fact of like our stories take place in certain time periods, and so they have their own realms basically.
So I'm just going to get a lot of lore and what's happening.
Yeah, but the 1800s London situation, well, you'll see the actual our version of it, like we'll say the real world. That's the end of this season, and then you won't see the other version until like season 6, so don't worry about that. But those are our realms of story.
That was an episode.
It was an episode. I do have some fun facts. So this one is obviously our title card is black and white, which has not happened before. Because again, we're visiting a character of our land without color. The scene where Regina sees Daniel standing on the street, it's like downpouring. Like I wrote down my notes. I'm like, I really hope they manufactured the rain. This is way too hard to make anyone deal with.
Yeah. Very
much so. They manufactured the rain in this situation. Basically, Noah Bean being on the street and Lana being in the car were filmed on 2 different days. They probably had to hose him down so he looked wet, but basically they filmed him through the glass with the lightning, and then when they filmed her in the car, they basically had a giant crane with like a hollow tube create some kind of like rain curtain, so basically it would just pelt rain down on top of her car. and they'd have like a stand-in that was, I guess, in the surrounding area, and they had a stand-in basically in Noah Bean's costume who was forced to stand in that.
Ugh.
So she'd have someone to react to. So unfortunately, if that stand-in, they just got rained on that night.
Good times.
Yeah. For some reason, I just find the mental image of this hilarious. I don't entirely know why. Because I always wonder, whenever actors are missing limbs for whatever reason on a show, I'm like, do they just have them tied very, like, specifically behind their back? Because that's sometimes a thing they have them do. Apparently, in David Anders' case, he's just wearing like a green screen sleeve.
I could kind of tell because some of it's distorted.
Oh, I
Like if
wasn't
you're
looking
watching close enough,
Mm.
not when he's about to have it replaced, but like while he's
Mm-hmm.
talking to Rumple, it's kind of distorted
Mm-hmm.
around where his shirt is, and I'm like, oh, he's in a green sleeve.
Okay.
I pay
I just,
way too close attention to some things sometimes, and then not enough
that's
attention to
fair.
other things.
That's fair. Unless I am like looking for a specific detail, I'm usually writing stuff down as I'm watching. I'm barely watching the episodes unless I'm looking for something.
That's me and Bob's
So,
Burgers. I'm trying to write the
like,
script while I'm like got it on.
well, yeah, exactly. That's like because we each script these, so we're kind of like we're both writing down our thoughts, but also we're writing down things that are gonna be fun to talk about.
Like I take
We have to
notes
be.
for Once Upon a Time, but then there's so much work that involves my episodes that I'm like, all right, I got to get all this stuff down. I've got to get all my fun facts. What actors are in this? And then somehow take notes and write the synopsis at the same time because then I get like I kind of jump back and forth between those things. Just don't recommend. I don't know why I do that to myself.
I mean, I think we both put equal amount of effort into the episodes that we script.
Yeah.
And it is far more effort than the notes we put into for the other one's show.
So if y'all didn't know, we put a lot of work into this.
We put a lot of work into these.
It's our hobby.
There's a lot of finding video. It is our hobby. There's a lot of finding of video links. In my case, usually, because a lot of like the stuff that I come up with again is like usually stuff that like I remember from that time period. So I gotta then like go hunt down the receipts, unless I happen to have found it recently and put it in my folder of videos that I know I'll need at some point.
Well, for me, it's interesting, though, like with the Bob's Burgers, because while I've watched a ton of Bob's Burgers and I've watched some interviews and some things like that, there's a lot of stuff I had no idea about. Like Lauren Bouchard having a SoundCloud, discovering that, I think, was my favorite thing so far. Like, so there's a lot of things we're finding now, too, that I've noticed.
Yeah.
Like, now you can actually see a little distortion on his arm.
Yeah.
You're welcome for that.
Thank you. I was okay without him having an arm, honestly. David Anders has always rubbed me the wrong way. Like, nothing, I don't think he did anything.
Because he's the light version of Neil Patrick Harris.
It's just his face. I don't know. But after season 2, we don't really see him as often because after this, he booked a main character role on iZombie. So he's busy.
He is in iZombie. I knew that face. I didn't like him in that either.
Nah. So we don't see him as much. Basically, he shows up whenever someone gives birth and then makes a joke about why he isn't on screen as much and then goes away. Literally, at one point, I think they wrote this into the script because when he comes in season 5, he still has the platinum blonde hair from iZombie, and someone makes a joke about his hair, and he's like, "What? They can change their hair, but I can't." Like, dude. Like, I honestly, if they're gonna have him back in, I would rather they like not acknowledge that they didn't dye his hair or put on a wig.
Yeah. I've only watched so much of iZombie, though. It's good. I just never finished it. That and Santa Clarita Diet. Like, I haven't finished them. Yeah. Every zombie show I've watched, I haven't finished, because I haven't finished The Walking Dead either. Well, the new spinoff makes me want to finish it, though, which just sucks.
So I already mentioned Whale's name, but lastly, his assistant, Igor. Again, because I was in my brain, I'm like, why do I feel like this was a Mel Gibson like creation? It's not. It's not from the original either.
It's not.
The idea of him having an assistant is not from the original novel. It is from the first time he has an assistant. It's an unnamed kind of stock character from an 1823 stage adaptation. But then the name came from the 1939 film Son of Frankenstein.
I knew about that one.
Yeah.
I need to get a new copy of Frankenstein, though. I really do.
I would like to say I read it in college. I think I was supposed to.
I think I read it in high school, but I only remember because we read Dracula. I prefer Frankenstein to Dracula. Like, I will take Mary Shelley over Bram Stoker any day.
That's fair. So, Rumple's magic teaching tactics. I mean, first of all, just you can't ask the horse girl to hurt a unicorn. Like, you're not gonna regardless of what's holding her back, you're not gonna be getting the you're not going to be getting the results that you want out of that situation because you're asking her to hurt a unicorn. Which also doesn't necessarily work in the realm of the show because it's implied that unicorns are rare, so why does Rumple just have one? This creates more questions than it answers.
But, like, he also just set up for the other girl to get killed, so.
Well, yes, absolutely he did.
That was so messed up. He, like, completely set her up to just die.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. He doesn't care.
He got the result he wanted.
He got the result he wanted. He made his monster, and this kind of pulls into the whole kind of, evil isn't born, it's made thing, is he's getting that much closer to making the person who's going to cast his curse, basically removing all lightness and hope out of her heart so that she will have no choice but to use the dark curse to enact her revenge and get him where he needs to be.
Like, I know Cora's our villain, but damn.
Well, like, Rumple is kind of like, he's like the secondary villain the entirety of the series, if you really think about it. Because, like, in season 1, it's more so Regina. Like, she's the antagonist because she's the one that cast the curse, and then we learn that he's the one doing the things behind the scenes. This season, it's still, he's doing things behind the scenes, but he's really out for his own agenda.
He's like your hand of God person. He's kind of controlling things throughout.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
There's more to unpack to his story, but he's definitely pulling a lot of the strings. There will always be more about Rumpelstiltskin. We never stop getting Rumpelstiltskin backstory.
He's so old. That's why.
That's why he's the longest running Dark one. Rumple is so old, but he's not wrong in the so long as you live in your past, you'll never find your future. He's not wrong in that. If she is holding on to the hope that she can bring someone back from the dead, she's not going to move forward. That's, not bad advice, but maybe we don't hire someone to pretend to do it to crush her soul. Like, good intentions, bad execution.
Yeah.
But I did love just with Regina throughout the entirety of the episode, with the exception of the very beginning, because the very beginning she's just herself, but even in Storybrooke, once she sees Daniel, and then throughout the rest, I mean, she's using young Regina voice throughout the entirety of the flashbacks because that's the time period for her. Once Daniel is back, her voice is much lighter than it normally is.
I noticed.
She's pitching it up a lot more, and I'm like, she sounds so hopeful, and I'm like, it's so painful to watch knowing how it ends. But because she's just like, I'm like, I was like 5 seconds away from like just going to find my fan fiction where he comes back to life and everyone's happy again. But she's just, I love Lana's voice work in this episode because she really does use that to show where her emotional state is. And like, Daniel's back, so she feels a little bit more attuned with that young girl. But also like her thing with when Jefferson asks her for like a royal passport so he can do whatever he wants. And she's like, how would I do that? It's like, well, you're the queen, aren't you? That's right, I am. Like, honey. We think for a second. Because she's still young. I think my timeline wise, which I didn't update your timeline, this is only a few months after the events of We Are Both, if that, like less than a year. So she's 19, maybe 20 at the oldest at this point. Oof. So she is very young. But I love seeing that throughout the entirety of the episode, and then kind of her growth with like the very beginning, how she's trying to not use magic. And in the scene in the stables with David, she could very easily use her magic to push him away. She doesn't, but she could.
Yeah.
Like when David's stopping her from, he does flip that switch of, you can tell me where he is, or I'll put you in jail, to no, you can't go in there, you're gonna hurt yourself, very quickly. Also, I do stand by, what would putting her in jail do?
Nothing. Well, if she's keeping Henry's promise, she can't get herself out.
I suppose, but like she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything with a kid and Daniel coming back to life. So it's just putting her in jail because it's like the same reason like you put a kid in a timeout, like because they spoke back. Like I get the respect thing, but like, is this really doing what you needed to?
No. Timeouts are for very specific things.
Very specific things. So I do like, but I do like that she could use her magic to push David away, so she could confront Daniel, but she doesn't. Like, she just said she uses her tiny body and just pulls at his jacket. And I'm like, this is adorable. Not doing what you need it to, but it is very cute. But it is but that for I know you said you had your secondhand embarrassment, but I'm just like, this moment is it's a little awkward because I think the implication is with Frankenstein's stuff is that because you're using someone else's heart, using someone
Mhm.
else's soul, basically, to bring, because the heart is basically an embodiment of the soul. That's the way they're
Yeah.
kind of using it. So it's monstrous because he's got the ideas that his body has, he's got the memories and the ideas that his body has, but he's got the soul of someone else, so it's conflicting, so it's kind of just manifesting as something monstrous.
Yeah. Because they can't work. They don't mesh. They don't work
They're
together.
not meshing, they're not meshing together. So the idea, I guess, is that when she says I love you, that's bringing the mind to the forefront, and then the heart is strong because it's been imbued with magic, so that's fighting back, which is why it kind of it
Mhm.
kind of pulls back a little bit. So I mean, maybe that's just my interpretation with it, but like I think it's just I, it's beautiful and sad, and also I don't like seeing Regina cry, but also I thought it was very poignant. Obviously not everyone does.
And I don't want to say it was the acting, maybe. I mean, it could have been the direction of that. Could have
It
been
could have
like the
been.
way I can't say exactly what it is or
Mm-hmm.
whose fault it is because I don't want to sit there and say, well, the actor's terrible. I like the guy who plays Daniel. I think he's great.
Yeah.
It's just this very specific scene that I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
poor guy.
It's
Because it
poor.
could have been the direction. It could have been like
Mm-hmm.
that was the best he could do. It could have been like that's what the director wanted, so he did it. So like,
Yeah.
I don't fault anybody in this other than like who it may be. But I'm not going to be sitting here and be like, oh, he's a terrible. Like, it couldn't even be his
No.
fault.
It's hard to act undead when you also
Mm-hmm.
need to have emotion on your face. Like, it's one thing if you're like a zombie in The Walking Dead and you've got a lot of prosthetics on your face and you
Oh
can't
yeah,
emote. So like the half dead stare and whatever is okay because you can't see a whole lot of the person's face, but he's just himself. He's wearing the outfit he was wearing. He's so
yeah.
it's hard to be that kind of that undeadness when you can and should still have emotion on your face.
And I felt like he did good there. It was kind of like the like Wild Daniel more so. It was the transition of
Mhm.
it. He was
Okay.
fine as Frankenstein's monster. He was fine as Daniel as Daniel. It was that weird
Mhm.
transition point in
Mhm.
between. He's like, I'm in
Okay.
pain, I'm in pain, says things, I'm in pain, I'm in pain. And then that weird transition point, I was like,
It's kind
you
of
could
just it's
have
like
turned
the
away from
other,
yeah, could have
it
done a
creeps up on
transition.
him.
Yeah, could have maybe
Yeah.
transitioned it differently or like
Mhm.
even panned away to mostly Regina come back and he's changed. It was that
Mhm.
weird point that I was just like, this is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it. But
No, I
like
see it.
I don't know. I have an odd
Like I
opinion
say,
on things like that, but I watch the things I watch, man. Like
no, it's
I
true. You
texted you
are a
today
horror
and
person.
said, yeah, like I texted you today and was like, oh no, this is the last episode for Sebastian Stan. I'm gonna go watch Fresh then. Like he's literally a cannibal in that movie.
Yes. Yes, he is.
So that's where my brain goes.
Mhm. Which is fair. But yeah, I'm definitely, this is my evil regal stable queen rose-colored glasses. I just want everyone to be happy. I've read a lot of fan fiction. I've read a lot of fan fiction.
You're a romance
Um
reader. That's what it
not
is.
I am. Yeah, like the fan fiction of this that I've written and read for the most part is not anything anyone can read anywhere because there aren't actually a lot of stable queen fics that I've noticed on AO3. Um
Well, because Spoon Queen exists.
Oh, because Spoon Queen exists. Unfortunately, there's also not a lot of fanfics for Spoon Queen either. But it's it's the RP stuff. So like I know where I can read my stuff. No one else can, and nor would anyone ever be able to follow it.
Yeah, I would have no idea
We
what's going on there.
no, like, but like even like if you just search by like the character, I was awful at tagging threads, and I preferred the shorter, like kind of
Mm-hmm.
like quick back and forth kind of things. So like I was more of the RPer where like not that I didn't write bigger plotted out things, but I liked the idea of building a world with someone else's character
I used to do that
through
too.
like through like little slice of life bits. That's the
Mm-hmm.
way that I did it. So like we would do short ones, like short little snippy here and there bits. So like if you just search by the character, I mean, I was writing with probably at least 5 to 10 different Reginas, so you'd have to wade through each of those and read them kind of individually interwoven. Um, but I wrote different versions where this is where he came back to life. He came back to life in the Enchanted Forest. When he died, he was transported to Storybrooke, so it's during the curse. Like there was every kind of version you could think of, and they were all fun. They were all cute. They were all adorable
See, I used to
because
do like RPs
I
with
wrote
other
fluff.
people, but we created our own world, so it was never
Hmm.
fan fiction based.
Yeah.
Like, we always created our own worlds, our own settings. We
Mhm.
created everything and then made our own characters and wrote in it all together up till, like, I mean, I've
Mhm.
written with like 10 other people at once before in
Yeah.
forums. And it was a lot of fun. Cannot find
Mhm.
people to do that with anymore.
No.
It's not the same as it was. Early 2000s, like
Yeah.
RP was a completely different world.
Yeah, I can't speak on what the RP community looks like on Tumblr now, but given the average age of the people that I was talking to back then, I would feel old if it's because
Mhm.
it's like it's
I
a
was a teenager.
it's an ever replenishing kind of thing, and like there were people that were like in like their 20s into 30s that were RPing, and I
Mhm.
tended to not write with them because I was 18. Like I didn't start till I was 18. I'm not in like in the indie space. I was in a couple of our roleplay groups at first when I first started, and I was like 17, about to be 18 in college, but but like once I was like in the indie space in 18, I mostly stuck to people that were like in their early 20s because we kind of had the same schedules and ideas, and it worked out
Mhm.
nicely because I like to live RP if I could, like just kind of go back and forth for a little while. So like it's now I definitely wouldn't go back because like, oh, these are a lot of people that are very young. No,
Yeah, I wouldn't be able
not
to.
at my age. Because I do have some friends from the RP community that every once in a while we're like, hey, do you want to write a thing on like Discord, like between the two of us? Like, sure. And we do it for like a few days and then maybe we go back to it, maybe we don't. And it's okay. And I like that I still have some of those friendships left where we can just kind of like randomly like, hey, I miss writing with you. Let's do a thing. Okay. 2 days later, it's probably gone, but we still kind of connect and have fun.
I didn't get that thing because I didn't do it on Tumblr. I did it on
Hmm.
another website that no one is on anymore. And so, because none of us go on the website anymore, everything we had before is dead.
Yeah.
I think people still do it on that website, like, but once again, these
Hmm.
people are so much younger than me. I
Yeah.
could never. I don't feel comfortable going into this space and being like, "Let's do
Hmm.
this," and then find out they're like 16. No, thank you.
No, I'm good. I'm very good.
Mm-mm.
Adult spaces and teen spaces. There should be teen spaces for their own development. They should have their own spaces. They should not be in adult spaces. I could go on a rant about this as it pertains to the Has Been Hotel fandom, but I will not because that will be an hour.
And I can't even say, "Let's do a mini-sode on just that," where we don't have this space anymore. But then, like you said, it'll be an hour.
We can't actually do mini-sodes.
No, it doesn't exist.
Guess back to Once Upon a Time. I do have a question for you before we
Oh
get into
shit.
stats, and then I'll do blooper brain right afterwards. So you've seen the inception that the start of what will become Captain Swan. I haven't hidden that from you.
Yeah,
How do you feel about their chemistry so far?
there's not much of it.
Okay.
I don't feel like there is much yet. She caught him in a
Mm-hmm.
lie.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't see it yet.
Okay.
But I'm also it's me we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The only romance I read is what you give me.
This is
So
true.
I don't pick up on
It,
that much. I'm reading
it
Gideon the Ninth right now.
that's true.
Like
And the romance that I send you does not usually involve men. Uh,
exactly. And while I love my husband, there's not exactly much romance in this relationship. just terrible jokes between the two of us. So that's
mhm.
what our relationship is based on.
Yeah, I think I see the chemistry because I know what happens and like I know that their
Mhm.
friendship is and like I see it, but I think that's again my interpretation of things. Um, this was always my theory. Take with this what you will. You can have you may come to agree with me. You may not as the show goes on. We'll find out. I think Hook was intended as a love interest for Regina originally, not Emma.
I think I need more information.
I think we'll go as we see. I come from it from a place of they have two very similar origin stories,
Mhm.
and they have similar convoluted relationships, shall we say, with Cora and Rumple. I think that's my personal take on this. People like this, but this will go into the thing that I meant to say on the recording for last week, but ended up saying it after we were done. That makes that line that I mentioned because of Neil being Emma's baby daddy. It makes that not a thing if Hook was originally intended to be the love interest for Regina, not Emma.
Mhm.
Because the line in question after Katie figured out that that Bay is Henry's father, line from season 5 that Katie will get to hear eventually.
In a long while, I'll forget it.
Long time when Emma gets to meet Mila in the underworld, and Mila just after Rumple does his nice long spiel about the whole thing, Mila just goes, "So you've been with my former lover and my son, is that right?" Huh? Like it makes that line not a thing. So I think that's where I think they started, but I think they, as they saw chemistry with the two actors as well as fan reception, I think they changed their
Which
minds.
I
That's
enjoy when
my
writers do
take.
that, though, because
Yeah.
you've never seen Shameless, right? Or have you?
No. No, I haven't.
I'm having Steven watch through it now, and a character is kept as a love interest within the show because of fans. Like, they were
Mm-hmm.
gonna have him as, like, okay, he exists, but he's in and out of jail all the time, so they weren't gonna keep him all the time. And then
Mm-hmm.
they saw the fan reception, they're like, "Oh, no, we need to keep this guy," and he ends up all the way to the end of the show. So, like,
Yeah.
fans have so much control on who gets
Yeah.
paid.
Well, I think Hook was always meant to be, because he'll be main cast after season 2. He's recurring I think he's either main cast starting middle of the season or by season 3. Because he's too good to not have. And he fulfills what I call the 5-man band. When they finally come
Yeah.
together, I will give you all their roles, but he fulfills that last piece for the 5-man band. So I think he was always intended to be main cast. It was just a case of they couldn't get the rights for him in the first season, so they waited until season 2, and then they still couldn't get the rights for Peter Pan until season 3. So that's kind of where that happens. But
Just never thought
I
they would
think,
have different rights,
yeah, the characters themselves and the stories have different rights.
which is interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's we'll see how opinions change and shift and what have you after. I mean, even after the next episode, I think there might be a shift. We shall see.
We shall see.
We shall
I have
see.
surprised you so far.
You have. So, what did you rate this episode?
8s across the board.
Okay, that's solid. 24 is a solid score.
I like Frankenstein. You know my love for
Yeah.
Mary Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
I will stand by the light version of Neil Patrick Harris for the rest of dealing with this man.
That's fair.
Is it bad that I'm happy that Daniel's storyline's hopefully more so over?
It's
It's
Daniel
over.
is done. Daniel is done. He gets brought up.
But like, this is it.
This is it for his story. Like, we don't see, like, Daniel, when they're in the underworld, Daniel will be mentioned because they're in the underworld. Of course she's going to see if she can find him. And I think we have some events happening at his gravesite, but like, it just happens to be that was the spot that people met up at.
Okay.
His storyline is pretty much
it's not that I don't like
it's
Daniel's storyline. It's just, let's move on.
It's all still for, like, the curse is all for Daniel. That's what it is. But it's Regina's story moving forward is about growing and moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Good.
And her backstory is, like I said, the few times, I think I said the few times we see Regina backstory in this part of the season, it's young Regina. I think the only backstory that's left is going to be our next Evil Queen bit. So that's in episode 9.
I'm excited.
So we're more so her backstory is going to kind of almost, like, I was like, the backstory we see is more tied to like the events of what's going on in the storybook. They're kind of getting a little bit back to that as the show goes on. So
okay, but yeah, that's me. It's not horrible, but I liked it.
Mm-hmm. I thought this was going to be a 30 because I do have a strong affinity for this episode.
Okay.
I was wrong because there were some things that I could not let go.
Like Dr. Whale?
I mean, like a lot of David Anders, and a lot of the lack of continuity with the preservation spell and all this other stuff, and it just mostly that it was a lot of that. So I ended up giving it an 8 for plot, a 9 for character, and a 9 for personal. So it gets a 26, which is still a very good score.
Oh wow, we're only 2 points apart.
Like, that's still a very good score, but at the end of the day, I just couldn't give it a 30, no matter how much I wanted to.
That's fair.
But yeah, but this episode is, like, weirdly enough, because I went back to watch the blooper reel, because there were some that I remember specifically, but there was, like, I went back to watch it just to make sure I could find the ones I was remembering them correctly. This episode has a lot of bloopers in them, like, from it. The ones that I like to bring up is in the scene when they're in the mausoleum, when Jefferson, Victor, and Regina are in the mausoleum looking at Daniel's body. It's Sebastian and David and Lana. You can't see Lana. You can see the back of David's head, and you're seeing Jefferson. And for whatever reason, they're just kind of, like, yelling for no apparent reason. You hear Sebastian start, and then David start, and all of a sudden you just hear Lana yelling in the background.
I can't wait to watch the bloopers, though.
I'm gonna put the link. I'm gonna put the link in the show notes of this episode. Anytime I mention bloopers, I'm just gonna link the blooper reel if anyone wants to watch it. This one is still on the short side. It's about 3 minutes. They do get longer as the show goes on. I don't think there are spoilers in the. Oh, actually, well, I guess there is, but you don't watch the blooper reel yet.
Well, if anybody's interested, though, I didn't film myself doing it, but after I finished season 1, Lauren let me watch the blooper reel for the entirety of
Yeah.
season 1. I really just can't wait to do that again for season 2.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I should be filming my reaction to this.
Save it for the content.
I know you always say that, but you got to admit some of your followers would love to see. I think some people would enjoy to see my reaction to some of that.
I think so. There was one bit also where like it's when I think it's the very last scene when I think all the bloopers we saw of Lana in the Archie's office hallway. I think they're all from this episode.
Mm-hmm.
She's like dancing as she's like going in the room. One part she's like pretending like she's like getting like choked as she's going in the door. But then there's one at the very end where like they like hit like her nose with like the clapper.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very cute. But the one that comes with a story is there's one that it's seemingly innocuous. It's Jen and Colin. It's that scene when he's tied to the tree.
Yeah.
And she hops up to threaten him with the knife. I forget what word threatening is. And all of a sudden she just gets down off the tree. She goes like, "Oh God, sorry!" And she's bent over. You can't see what's happening. We think this is speculation, but it's very good speculation. We think we know what happened here. So there was an interview that she did with Jimmy Kimmel in like 2013 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was talking about how they keep warm when they're up in Vancouver because it's very cold. And they have like those like hot shot things that you can like stick to your clothes to kind of like chemical react and keep warm.
Yeah.
So, and with those, sometimes they fluctuate out of nowhere. They get really hot for no apparent reason. So she was saying, like she's saying like, no, we have them like, all over our bodies. She's like, like in my boots everywhere else. And she's like, one day Jennifer Gowan comes up to me and just goes like, she's like, I've discovered a new way to stay warm. She's like, what's going on here? She's like, I have mine in a special spot.
Oh no.
Like, in a special spot. And so she's like, if you're wearing, a certain number of layers because it can't touch your skin, you can keep it in a spot and it keeps you very warm. She's like, this is where the temperature fluctuation comes from because she's like, it doesn't matter if you're in the conversation or in the middle of a take. If that thing gets hot out of nowhere, you're getting it out of your pants. So that's what we think is going on in that blooper. I can't watch that scene without thinking about that. And I'm also going to be linking this interview because I did find the YouTube clip. It left the internet for a while and came back. I love fans just keep bringing things back because nothing dies on the internet. But yeah, maybe don't put hot shots in a special spot.
Thank you all for listening. Join us next time when we discuss Bob's Burgers Season 4, Episode 3, Seaplane, and Episode 4, My Big Fat Greek Bob. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. And follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Lauren and Katie and edited by Lauren.